Spotify Wrapped is one of the most exciting days of the year. Everyone gets to share their music taste, get judged for it. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of comments about the Lizzie McAlpine songs in my top 5. But today we're doing an interesting video. We're going to go through my Pokemon Wrapped. We're going to take a look at all the Pokemon that I used this year, all the different EVs, all the different moves and items, and how I did this year when it comes to Pokemon Draft League. If you're excited for today's video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. If you have not already, we do a lot of great competitive Pokemon content here every single week. So we got a few categories to go through. We're going to go through my general stats for the year. We're going to go through my most used Pokemon, the one I got the most kills with, my most common Terra types, and etc. And this is all going to be for the Pokemon Draft League battles that I've uploaded to the channel this calendar year. So enough wasting time, let's get right into it. So these are our end of year stats. We cut off at November 17th because we have to cut off somewhere, and this is just the best place to do it for where I'm recording this video. And so when we do the comparisons to this next year, we'll have a little bit more data to go off of. So as of November 17th, I had 60 Draft League games uploaded to this channel, which is a lot for me in terms of how much I played recently. That number expected to be much higher next year with all the content that we have planned on this channel. But we went 32 and 28 with the +4 differential, which is not entirely surprising for me. I'm not a player who gets a lot of differential usually with how I play. I'm kind of the player who wins close and loses big, which is not the best in the world. And we do have one championship, so we did win the JJDL Civil War Team Tournament, which was super awesome. So we come out of this year with a championship. No individual one, which we hope to rectify next year, but hey, still a championship we can put on the board. We played a lot of different formats. I don't think this format list is going to change much next year. We played ADV, ORAS, Ultra Sun and Moon. We only played one Ultra Sun and Moon game in this data set because of a multi-gen tour. Maybe we play more. I don't think so. I don't like this format that much. Sword and Shield, Scarlet and Violet, and then Low Tier and Uber. So we have our first 3 weeks of BBL in here, and then we played the Low Tier League. And then the big thing, our most common opponents this week, we actually played against Amel and T. Rowe Price 3 times this season. A lot of other people at 2, but these are the 2 players we played the most. And these are our games played leaders of the year. Nothing for me super surprising when I look at this. Raging Bolt #1 with 20 games, so I had that in JJDL. Brought it all 12 weeks that I played of that, and all 8 weeks that I played in BBR. So definitely makes sense that's at the top. Meowscarada, we had it in 2 straight BBR seasons. Yeah, so we brought it like almost 9. I think we brought every game in both of those leagues. So definitely makes sense to see that up there. And then Screamtail, a personal favorite of mine, is number 3. Both of those at 17. We had this in JJDL and the last BBR season. I'm surprised it's only 17, considering we had it in more games than Raging Bolt. But it's one of those Pokemon that kind of works matchup to matchup. Sometimes you're just not going to have the opportunity to leverage it. Where Raging Bolt, like Choice Draco, is going to be good almost everywhere. So that kind of makes sense there. And then the 2 other Pokemon, Greninja is a Pokemon I love. I love Greninja. We had this in JJDL and we had it elsewhere. I don't know how I forgot. We have it right now in BBL. So those are the first 3 games of BBL as well with JJDL. Such a powerful Pokemon. I've been abusing Battle Bond Greninja in the JJDL, and a little bit more of Protean than maybe I would like in BBL, but certainly good. And then Iron Hands, we had that in BBR. I think we had the last 2 Owen had it in the BBR season we did really bad in. I had this in BBR and I've had this in Frost Battle League currently, where I'm using as a Terra Captain, which I've actually pretty liked as a Terra Captain. I think if you're looking for Terra Captains, it's one of those Pokemon that's kind of been like Terra Captain du jour at times, but I think if you're looking for a Terra Captain that price range in like the 15-16, I think it's actually pretty good and you can find a lot of utility with it. Our kill leader list is actually not too different here. Greninja leads the way with 20, which makes more sense. I've used a lot of Battle Bond Greninja. It's got a lot of kills in JJDL as a result. Just ahead of Raging Bolt, which has 16 kills. I'm someone who's not used a lot of Calm Mind to Raging Bolt. I've had both of these Raging Bolts where actually no Terra allowed, which is kind of interesting in like a Draft League perspective. A lot of people abuse Terra Raging Bolt in Draft League. Just not something I've used a lot of. I've run a lot of Eject Pack and a lot of choice specs in my days. Iron Hands at 15 kind of makes sense. Like I run a lot of defensive Iron Hands, but this guy always gets out with one or two, like even defensive sets. Like you always find a way to Drain Punch and kill something, Thunder Punch kill something along the way. Iron Leaves, this is the first new Pokemon that we see here. Iron Leaves, 13 kills. This was a dominating force in our LTM run this season. Wow, what a powerful Pokemon that was. We had this a Terra and low tier. I mean, it should have been banned. Let's be real. It was just not fair for the league. And then Landorus, we had this on our last BBR season. And I feel like people give this guy doesn't give this guy its flowers. I think like Life Orb Landorus is still such a powerful threat to switch into. The speed tier I know is awkward, but if you can leverage this Pokemon, man, you can get such good value out of it. I really thought in that season D-Ray should have taken it over Gliscor given his team. I think it would have really suited his team well. But hey, I'm super happy I got it. This Pokemon is awesome. We get into our items now, and hey, look, if you know me, you know I love heavy duty boots. It's on almost all of my builds. The only reason Leftovers is even this close is because I play a lot of Gen 3 ADV Draft League, and it's like it's by far and away the item you have to run the most. But 93 boots, there's like, what was it? Like I played 16, like 360 items. This is like about a fourth of the items being boots. Like, yeah, that's a fourth of the items being boots, which is kind of not surprising. I was talking to L5 about this. He wasn't super surprised to see that. Maybe a little bit higher than you would expect a normal player. Leftovers at 51, as I said, this is heavily done by ADV and ORAS. When I play a lot of Gen 3 and a lot of Gen 6, no boots. It's kind of the default item for that type of effect. Rocky Helmet at 40. I've run a lot of Rocky Helmets in my day. This is probably outside of heavy duty boots my favorite item, especially in Draft League. You run into a lot of situations where like you can pre-plan certain kills. I sound like a Nuzlocke right now saying that, but you can plan a lot of kills like using Rocky Helmet damage, and a lot of physical attackers like Iron Hands is a great holder of Rocky Helmet. I've used a lot of Okidogi. That's a great holder of Rocky Helmet. Oxy, another Pokemon I love, great holder of Rocky Helmet. I drafted a lot of Pokemon that really like Rocky Helmet. So that's at 40. AV, as I said, Iron Hands. Look, I've run AV Iron Hands a million times. That's one of my favorite Pokemon of all time to run in draft. And no surprise to see itself as here number 4. What I'm really surprised is I've only run 18 Choice Scarfs over 60 games. Now, there are some like ADV games in there, but like you would think like Choice Scarf would almost be one a game, pretty close to it. And this is a super interesting thing. I think this will probably change a little bit next year, and I'm curious what percentage this is for my current Scarlet and Violet games, but not a lot of Choice Scarfs. And I think it might just be due to the nature of the formats that I played. I didn't run a lot in LTM. You can't run them in ADV. I didn't run them a lot in ORAS either. Yeah, just interesting. Not a lot of Choice Scarfs. I think if you're looking for next year, I expect the Choice Scarf number to be a lot higher. We get into the moves, and I think if you look at this, no one's surprised. We got a Landorus team move set on the move list, which I think was like my 6th or 7th most used Pokemon. But number 1 is Knockoff. Knockoff, like on so many of these teams, like I've run a lot of Meowscarada, and they're like, Knockoff is just such a useful move just to throw as a 4 slot on Pokemon. Like pressuring boots, pressuring other random items, like Knockoff, like weakness policies, like boots, random berries, like so useful. U-turn, second move. As I said, I love these quote-unquote point guard Pokemon. That's a term I've kind of coined myself. Like Meowscarada, Greninja, great U-turn Pokemon. I've kind of tried to avoid doing that as much as possible recently. I think U-turn can be kind of a crutch. And if I look at where I'm going next year as a player and what I want to change about my behaviors and what this has kind of taught me, is I wanted this number to be lower. I don't want this to be my second most used move. Obviously, U-turn's really, really good, but I feel like sometimes using this move can be a hindrance to your play. Stealth Rock is 52. Spikes was in the 30s. I think it was maybe like low 30s, high 29s, like move 7 or 8. Which is kind of funny that I did a video about Stealth Rock being better than Spikes. And I have ADV in here too, which should help Spikes out. But Stealth Rocks is one of those moves that's so easy to fit on random Pokemon rather than Spikes, just by the nature of the Pokemon that get it. That's, even if I like Spikes more, you're naturally just going to have more opportunity to have Stealth Rocks in a build than not. Earthquake, I mean, Earthquake's one of the best moves in Pokemon for a reason. This, like, 100 base power, ground coverage is awesome. very low number of resistances, and then hey, drop a Draco at 5. This was Ice Beam actually for the longest time. I think Ice Beam was 34, which is kind of actually surprising. I think that's just the nature of me using a lot of Greninja. But Draco with the Raging Bolt ends up being number 5 in our most used moves. We're getting into kind of some of the final ones here. We got Terra types and EVs left. My Terra captains this season, like this year, I use like Terra, God, what was I like Terra Cyclizar. I use like a Terra Fairy Cyclizar or a normal one at least once. I run Terra Kingambit and Scramble. I have that in BBL right now. Run a lot of Terra Iron Leaves is where a lot of this data is going to come from. And then Terra Iron Hands. Where is all my Terra Fairies coming from? Yeah, I was looking at the data again. Terra Fairy looks to just be just a random assortment. I ran like Manaphy once, Kingambit, Iron Leaves. Like, it's just such a powerful typing. Terra Ground, a lot of Terra Ground Iron Leaves. That Pokemon with Terra Ground was such a threat in low tier. And if you ever get the chance to use Iron Leaves with Terra in low tier, try using Terra Ground. There's so many matchups it does so well. And Terra Electric was another one we used a lot. Just the immunity to T-Wave on both of these and like having electric coverage was kind of nice. It overlaps a lot with grass coverage, but being able to beat Flyings was pretty important in that metagame at certain times. And then Water, another really good like defensive Terra typing here. I've used this a lot more offensively actually on Manaphy, looking at a lot of the data. Just like Tail Glow, Scald, Terra Water just does so much damage. And then Dark, just a great Terra for something like the Kingambit, which we've used on 2 teams, so I'm surprised it's only 2 in this data, but hey, it's a great Terra type for Kingambit. And then our final piece of data here, where did our EVs go this year? So no surprise that HP has the most EVs. Like if you're just like building sets, like you're naturally going to put a bunch of extra HP EVs just like on speed creeps. Obviously your bulky Pokemon are going to run this. But yeah, a lot of HP and a lot of speed. Those are kind of like the 2 main EVs you're always going to be putting into Draft League when you're building your teams. What I'm really surprised is how low Spadef is. And that I think just speaks to the nature of like current Pokemon, very physically oriented in Scarlet and Violet. You see a lot of my teams were almost all physical attackers in something like the LTM. Really showcased that. So not super surprised, but to be 4% lower, it's hard for me to parse this data because I don't know what it's like. Is this like expected? What does this mean? It's just an interesting thing to look at. You know, a lot of attack over special attack. I was a little bit surprised it was this close, but I think a lot of that was JJDL pulled this back up. I had a lot of big physical attacking teams in LTM and BBR, but LTM with Raging Bolt, Greninja, and Terrapico certainly brought the special attacking numbers up back to about even for the year. And that is our Draft League wrapped for 2024 for Pokemon. Let me know what you thought of this in the comments down below. Let me know if you want me to do it again next year as well, with hopefully a lot more data and a lot more interesting things to take a look at. If you guys haven't, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We do a lot of great competitive Pokemon content here every single week. That's all I have for today. We'll see you all next time. And as always, have a wonderful day.